Interviewers know that conflict can't be avoided at work, probably not in life either. However, there are constructive ways to handle conflict and there are destructive ways. How you answer this question will give the hiring manager some insight into your ability to deal constructively with personal clashes that come up in the workplace. Your response should show that you understand that conflict occurs as part of everyday life. Never try to suggest that you have never had to deal with conflict before. That answer would mark you as either dishonest or stupid, neither of which are qualities you want to communicate to a prospective employer. A hiring manager is going to look for evidence that you take actions to ensure that the conflict doesn't get worse. Even better, that you work to resolve it. Do you make an effort to understand the other person's perspective? Do you show an ability to stay calm and work the lines of communication? That's what a hiring manager wants to hear. Let's listen to John's response.
When I first started at my current employer, I worked very hard to establish myself as a team player, one who was responsible, would put the client first, and I was a top candidate for promotion. Now, manager positions are earned through an internal application process, so when the advertisement came out that a new manager position was available, I carefully crafted my expression of interest. And after a series of interviews, I got the promotion, but taking the position would mean I'd have to supervise a person that I had been at the associate level with. After I was promoted, this individual, Steve, he was very standoffish. I got the sense that he was upset that I got the position over him. And this created an uncomfortable atmosphere during meetings throughout the workday. At one point, he openly disagreed with me and argued that my strategy for one of our projects wouldn't work in front of our bosses. I knew I had to do something to resolve the situation with Steve. I decided that I needed to first sit down and have a cup of coffee with him away from the office environment. So that's what I did. I asked Steve to go out for a cup of coffee with me, away from work, and we sat down and talked over what had happened.
How did that go?
Steve, he was upset that I'd been given the promotion over him because he'd been an associate at the company for 2 years longer than I'd been an associate. We got into our work history a bit, and I came to discover that this was his first job in project management. He had switched careers. He had come from working in education, and I had 3 more years of experience in project management than he did. We looked again at the job requirements and saw that my work experience was, at that time, a better fit for the manager position. I could understand why Steve was upset, and I encouraged him to use the opportunity to gain experience. I also suggested he think about taking some classes to help him catch up a bit on business background. He seemed to brighten up about that idea.
What happened? What's the relationship like now?
Actually, he was promoted recently as well. The best part about that is that I helped coach him on his interview responses and prepared him for some managerial questions that might be asked. And this was a key experience for me. My immediate reaction to Steve had been, hey, it's a competition. You lost, I won, get over it. But I realized that kind of attitude wasn't doing either of us any good. Steve was on my team, and I needed his cooperation. The experience was an eye-opener for me because I could step out of the competition mindset. Remember, I have a sports background, and I could really put myself in another person's shoes. Win-lose might be the way it works on a soccer field, but win-win is how it needs to work in business. My understanding his perspective allowed the conflict to be resolved. And the best thing is, we became friends and he was able to move on to better things.
I hope you can see how John uses the STAR strategy in telling his story. I think his story shows that he is aware of how conflict can arise. He realized there could be a problem with Steve even before accepting the promotion. But John was also confident enough to take the promotion and to take steps to resolve the conflict. Let's take a look at some of the language John uses. How did John describe Steve after the promotion? Steve was very standoffish. That means he was distant, cold, and unfriendly. Later, John says they got into their work history a bit. To get into something is an English idiom. In the sense John uses it, it means they talked about their work history. But it's a common idiom in English. For example, 3 common collocations are: If you get or go into the details or specifics about something, you talk about the details or specifics. If you get into an argument, you argue with someone. Later, John uses a few expressions that are common in business: eye-opener, mindset, win-lose, and win-win. An eye-opener is a common idiom. Its meaning is almost literal. Something that opens your eyes is an eye-opener. It's something that lets you see a situation in a way you never had before. We often use it in the collocations seen here. A mindset is also almost literal. It refers to a way of thinking, a set of attitudes that someone holds. To change your mindset means to adopt a new attitude. If someone has a confrontational mindset, he or she is always looking to argue. A win-win situation is a situation where both parties win. Both parties gain something. By analogy, a win-lose situation refers to an outcome where there's a winner and a loser. By ending his story emphasizing the importance of a win-win outcome, John again communicates a personal value system that aligns well with the position he's interviewing for. It's a real win-win situation for everybody.